Welcome back. Today our topic is reproductive health. Reproductive health. What is health? Health means the well-being or lacking of disease. Health means nothing but well-being or lacking of disease. Now, what is reproductive health? Reproductive health means well-being in social, mental, behavioral and physical aspects of reproduction. Well-being in social, mental, behavioral, physical aspects of health. So that is called reproductive health. The well-being in social, mental, behavioral, physical aspects of reproduction. What is social, mental, behavioral and physical aspects? Physical aspects means related to sexual organs, related to completely the body. And social means in the society how to behave or how to maintain the relations among the people. That is also comes under reproductive health. And mental means thinking way of thinking, the way of thinking in relation to reproduction. So that also comes under reproductive health. And next one is behavior, and behaving with opposite sex. Our behavior should be good in terms of with the opposite gender. So that also comes under reproductive health. So total well-being in social, mental, behavioral and physical aspects of reproduction. Physical aspects means especially here what we have to understand, reproductive organs. So reproductive organs should be healthy first. That is the first thing. Physical, social, mental, behavioral aspects of reproduction is called reproductive health. Once again, let us see the definition of reproductive health. What is reproductive health? Reproductive health is nothing but well-being in all aspects of reproduction like physical, social, mental and behavioral aspects. WHO, World Health Organization. WHO, World Health Organization, given a definition to reproductive health is that well-being in all aspects of reproduction. Reproductive health is defined by who? Geneva. It was located in Geneva. The head office is located in Geneva. That is WHO, well-being in all aspects of reproduction. Well, the total well-being of all aspects of reproduction is known as reproductive health. Well-being in all aspects of reproduction. The total well-being in all aspects of reproduction is called reproductive health. That was given by WHO, World Health Organization. The World Health Organization. Next, to providing us reproductive health, the government is establishing some programs. That these are in that programs, RCH program is one of the important programs. Among that, RCH, reproductive and child health care, reproductive and child health care program, reproductive and child health care program. In this program, what is the main purpose of this program? There are two important purposes of this program. That is also important for questions. What is RCH program and what is its importance, or what is the significance of RCH program, or what is the purpose of RCH program? First, let us see what is the full form of RCH. Reproductive and child health care program. Reproductive and child health care program. What is the purpose of this program? RCH program is used to creating the awareness among the people about reproductive issues. The first one is creating awareness about the reproductive aspects in the people. Creating So that first one, what is the function of, what is the purpose of RCH program? Creating awareness among the people for different aspects of reproduction. That is the first one. The second one is to build a reproductive healthy society with providing help. They always provide the help to us to providing a reproductive healthy society. So constructing a reproductive healthy society is, it is not only government's responsibility, it is the responsibility of all of us. Reproductive healthy society. To build a reproductive healthy society, they provide their help. So that these are the two importances, or these are the two purposes of RCH program. What is RCH program? RCH program is a reproductive and child health care program. First one, that is full form. And what is the purpose of this RCH program? The first purpose is they provide awareness among the people. They provide awareness among the people in related to different reproductive aspects, in different reproductive aspects. And second one is they provide their help and support. They provide the help and support for maintaining or to build a reproductive healthy society. So that is reproductive and child health care program. Reproductive child health care program. And in related to besides this, many things they will do. That is the first one, the many people are having myths, misconceptions about the reproduction, about the reproductive system, about the reproductive and sexual aspects. Many people are having many myths and misconceptions. So that the government days and some other government servants, this related to this program, they will create awareness about the myths and misconceptions. They will decrease or encourage facts, and they will discourage these myths and misconceptions. Myth means what? A wrong notion. Myth means a wrong notion. They will discourage the myths and misconceptions about the reproduction among the people. That is also they will do. Next, they will provide information about the good practice of sex. Sexual practice, a right way of sexual practice. They will give their support for a healthy sexual practice. So they will give instructions for healthy sexual practices, and they will provide information for legal information about this pregnancy and termination of pregnancy. Termination of pregnancy means abortions. Related to abortions, they will provide some legal information, and they will provide hygienic instructions also. So these are, in this way they will provide information related to reproductive health. So that is the main purpose of RCH program. Population explosion. The rapid increase in population is described as population explosion. The rapid increasing in population is described as population explosion. Let us take some examples for this. The world population was in 1990, the world population was 2 billion only. The world population was 2 billion. In 2000, it was increased up to 6 billion. The total world population in 1900 year, it was 2 billion. But within 100 years, it was reached to 6 billions. So total within 100 years, 4 billions population was increased. And let us come to our India. In India, the population in 1900 year was 250 millions. 250 millions. In 1901 census, according to 1901 census, the India population was 250 millions. In 1947, it was increased up to 350 millions. In 1947, it was increased up to 350 millions. But in 2001 census, it was increased up to 1 billion. Indian population was reached to 1 billion. See that world population was 6 billion, but Indian population was 1 billion. Means 1 by sixth, 1 by sixth of our totally 1 by sixth of our total world population was in India only at that time. See, this is the example we can say that population increase, population explosion, rapid increasing. You can see here 2 billion population, within 100 years it becomes 6 billion population. Within 100 years, it was up to 1900 year, it was population was 2 billion only. But in 2000, it was reached to 6 billion. 250 million population was there in India according to 1901 census. In 1947, it was, by the time of independence, we got 350 million population. But in the case, in the census 2001 census, our population was reached to 1 billion. Our population was reached to 1 billion. So this is example for population explosion. These are the examples for population explosion. Let us see what are the reasons for population explosions. Let us see what are the reasons for population explosion. The first one is decreasing mortality. Decreasing rate of mortality. Mortality means death rate. Mortality means death rate. Death rate means the number of people who died within a given time period is called, the number of people or the number of individuals died in a given population, period of time is known as death rate, right? So death rate is also known as mortality. And the death rate was in 1900 year, the death rate was 45. In 1900 year, 45 by 1000 means in the 1900 year death rate was 45, means within 1000 people, 45 people used to die in every year. So the death rate was like that. So that is 45 to 1000. 1900 year, the death rate was 45 to 1000. And every year 45 people used to die within 1000 members. But in 2000 it was, in the 2000 it was reached to 8.7 out of 1000. 8.7 out of 1000. We can see here death rate was greatly decreased because of increasing medical facilities. Because of increasing medical facilities, the death rate was increased, highly increased. Sorry, the death rate was decreased, highly decreased. So 45 people used to die within 1000 members. 45 people used to die within 1000 members in 1900 year. But in the 2000 year, it was reached to within 1000 members, 8.7 members used to dying in the time of 2000. So this is because of increasing rapid medical facilities, death rate is, mortality rate is decreased. And second one is increasing natality or increasing birth rate. Increasing natality or birth rate. Decreasing mortality, death rate is decreased and birth rate is increased. Birth rate is increased. We can see here the death rate, the birth rate was 45.8 out of 1000 in 1900 year. In 1900 year, the birth rate was, in 1900 year, the birth rate was 45.8 out of 1000. In every 1000 members, 45 people used to increase every year. But in 2001, by 2001, 17 people used to increasing out of 1000. So the decreasing birth rate is decreased. However, birth rate is decreased. But still the birth rate is not totally decreased. Like compared to birth rate, if you see, compared to death rate, birth rate is more. For example, let us compare here, 45 members used to die out of 1000, now 8.7 members are dying. So 45 people were used to die out of 1000, but 8.7 people now they are dying. This is the death rate. 45 decreases to 8. But here you can see birth rate, 45 was there, but now it was reached to 17. So death rate is decreased greatly, but birth rate is not decreased. The birth rate was still greater than that of death rate. The birth rate is still greater than that of death rate. So that population is increasing. And next one is, third one is age, that is increasing lifespan. Increasing lifespan. Increasing lifespan. In 1900, the lifespan was, in 1900 year, the lifespan was 34 years. In 1900 year, the lifespan was 34 years, but in 2000, it was reached to 65 years. This is not one individual lifespan. This is the lifespan of the total population, the average lifespan of a person. Average means, for example, let us consider that you may think that earlier days only lifespan was more. Present lifespan was less. Generally, the people will say outside, right? But actually, lifespan was increased, not decreased. So many people will say that in the earlier days, our grandparents were used to survive up to 100 years, 110 years. Then generally people will say, this is common myth. Of course, right, that is also right. Some of the people, your grandparents or their grandparents, maybe they are surviving up to 100 years, 120 years also. That's also right. But that is not rate, that is an individual lifespan. But this is what we are discussing, the lifespan on average. For example, in 1900 year, 100 members are born. In that 2 or 3 people will be survive up to 100 years, but remaining most of the people used to die within 10 years. Some of the people used to die within 20 years. Some of the people used to die within 30 years. Some of the people used to die within 50, 40, 60, like that. So the total average number, let us take total lifespans, total number of years the people lived, and by total number of people, let us take lifespan will come 34 years. Are you understanding? So here we can see 1900 year lifespan was 34 years only, because, for example, let us consider that within 1 year, for example, 10 members are born. In that, one person will live for 100 years. But we will see that particular person only, but we will say that lifespan was 100 years at that time. No, it's not correct. 10 members are born. In that, one person only lived up to 100 years. Remaining 9 people are died before 50 or 60. At the time, total this 10 member population is, let us count, and by 10 let us take. So that will come to nearby 34. So that is average lifespan. This is not particular individual lifespan. Average lifespan. The average lifespan was 34 years. One person may born, one person may survive up to 100 years also. But is that we should not consider. That is average we are discussing here. That average is we are discussing here. So in the 1900 year, the average lifespan was 34 years. But in the 2000 year, the average lifespan is 65 years. The average lifespan is 65 years. So due to these things, these are the reasons: decreasing death rate, mortality, decreasing death rate, and increasing natality. See, decreasing death rate, 1900 year, 45 members used to die. In 2000, 1900, 45 members used to die. In 2000, 8.7 members only dying. So that the number is greatly decreased. Let us see now increasing natality or birth rate. 1945.8 birth rate out of 1000. Now in 2017 out of 100. Still, if it is continued, within 33 years only, our India population will become double. Our India population will become double. This is very alarming rate. This is alarming rate. If this rate is continued, if within every 1000 members, 17 members are increasing, means within 33 years only, our India population will become to 260 crores. So this is the problem. So still this birth rate has to be decreased. Still this birth rate has to be decreased. And at the same time, increasing the lifespan. Increasing the lifespan. 1900 year, 34 years was lifespan, average lifespan. And 2000, 65 years was the average lifespan. So because of these lifespans, because of these reasons, the population was increased. Another program which is conducting by government, that is Already we have seen RCH program, reproductive child health care. But now this is MCH program. That is RCH program. This is MCH program. Maternity and child health care program. Maternity and child health program. In this program, the ANMs and Anganwadi workers, like some medical assistants will be there. So these people will come to each and every pregnant woman, and they will give guidance and assistance to the mothers during the time of pregnancy and before the delivery and after the delivery. They will provide their assistance and guidance. They will provide their assistance and guidance to the mothers during the time of pregnancy, and at the same time before delivery and after the delivery they will provide their assistance. That is the main purpose of this maternity and child health care program. And after that, postnatal care. Postnatal, natal means birth, post means after. Postnatal care, postnatal means birth. Postnatal care means after the birth the infants have to be take properly care, or if for example some cases the child will be born before 9 months pregnancy, so let them be inside the incubators and providing incubators, and after if they develop if they born after 9 months and providing feeding habits, all the things they will develop. Next, immunization program. Immunization means what? Providing vaccines. Immunization means providing vaccines. So we know that many vaccines are available, so that immediately after immunization they will provide vaccines. Next, educate the couples. See, educating the couple is one of the important processes among these programs. Educating the couples is very, very important to control the birth in India and to control the population. Educating the couples and newly wedded couples also very, very important. Educating the newly wedded couples to maintain the distance between one birth to another birth, to maintain the distance between one birth to another birth, and to maintain the small families. All these things they will educate the couples. And this is small family norm. Small family norms, what are the benefits of small family norms? What are the welfare schemes are providing by the government to these small family norms? They will educate them. So this is the program of maternity and child health care program. Next, let us go for amniocentesis. Amniocentesis is earlier. What is amniocentesis? Amniocentesis was the test which was used to detect genetical or chromosomal disorders. This test was mainly provided to identify the genetical disorders of the baby, because once the baby is born, if the baby is having any genetical disorder, we cannot do anything. We cannot correct the genetical disorders once the baby is born. So that by this process, amniocentesis, one of the very, very important programs, amniocentesis, but it was misguided. It was misused nowadays, so that it was banned. Amniocentesis was very important and very beautiful program to provide importance to genetical disorders, to identifying the genetical disorders, during the time of embryonic stage. During the time of embryonic stage, if the baby is having any genetical disorders, so these disorders can be identified by using of amniotic fluid. In the reproduction lesson, we have seen amniotic fluid and amnion layer and chorion layer we have seen. In amnion layer, inside the amnion layer, amnion is a sac of or a bag of fluid we have seen. It provides shock absorption to the baby. Amniotic fluid, amnion layer contains some amount of fluid inside. So that fluid contains little amount of baby tissues. Because as the baby is growing inside the amniotic layer only, so that inside the amniotic sac the baby will be there, so that some of the baby cells will be present inside amniotic fluid. The amnion layer contains amniotic fluid, so this fluid contains some amount of cells. This fluid contains some amount of baby cells. So that this amniotic fluid has to be taken by injection from a pregnant woman. Taking this amniotic fluid by injection from a pregnant woman, and this amniotic fluid to be tested. This amniotic fluid to be tested for identifying the chromosomal disorders. This chromosome identifying this amniocentesis is used to identifying chromosomal disorders. So this process is called amniocentesis. Amniocentesis means removal of some amount of amniotic fluid from a pregnant woman. Removal of some amount of amniotic fluid from pregnant women for testing of chromosomal or genetical disorders like Klinefelter syndrome, Down syndrome, Cray-Duchard syndrome, like etc. etc. So these type of syndromes are problematic to the baby, so that such type of, if such type of disorders are found, the pregnancy has to be terminated. The pregnancy has to be terminated. The baby should be killed inside the uterus only. So for that purpose, the amniocentesis process was discovered. The amniocentesis process is, what is amniocentesis process? The amniocentesis process is removal of amniotic fluid from a pregnant woman for testing of genetical disorders like, Klinefelter syndrome, Down syndrome, Cray-Duchard syndrome, Turner syndrome, etc. Okay, so this amniotic fluid is mainly discovered for the purpose of identifying chromosomal disorders. But however, this amniotic fluid, amniocentesis process gives the length of and gives the scenario of entire chromosomes present in the cell. Here the problem was arised. When amniocentesis is done, the entire chromosome number and chromosome karyotype, entire karyotype will come. So total situation of chromosome, total scenario of chromosomes will come. So based on this, we can identify genetical disorders. At the same time, we can identify the sex of the baby also. Sex of the baby also can be identified in this process. So that some of the people, by doing this amniocentesis, they are killing the female fetus. If the baby is female, then they are killing the female fetus. So this is the reason why in 1971, this program was banned by Indian government. Here one thing, amniocentesis purpose is not identify the sex of the baby. Remember, very, very important. Amniocentesis function is to identify the genetical disorders. Amniocentesis purpose is to identify the genetical disorders, not for the identification of purpose of sex of the baby. But actually identification of sex of the baby is a crime nowadays. After this 1971, because before that many people done this amniocentesis, and if the baby is female, they used to kill the baby inside the womb. So because of this, female feticiding process was greatly increased. Female feticiding, so killing of the female fetus was rapidly happened in that time. So that 1971 Indian government has taken one decision that to ban the amniocentesis process. So after this, after 1971, so doing amniocentesis is prohibited in India. If anybody break this rule, then they will be punishable. So it is a punishable offense. Now in India. So and why it was banned? Because in amniocentesis process, the entire scenario of chromosomes will be obtained. By seeing the chromosomes, we can identify genetic disorders as well as we can identify the sex of the baby. But some of the people are misusing this process, and by this process, they are identifying the sex of the baby, and they used to kill the female babies. They used to kill only female babies, not male babies. So this is the reason why amniocentesis was banned in India. Birth control. So what is the importance of birth control? Why should we have to control the birth? Population explosion already we have seen. So because of population explosion, what will happen? The country goes to poverty. Poverty will be increased. The space will not be sufficient. The agricultural land will be converted into urban areas because of population increasing. Because of population explosion, rapidity of houses or rapidity of urban areas will be increased. So there will be no agricultural fields. Agriculture fields will be converted into more urban areas. That is one problem. Space will not be available at that time. Next, food is another problem. So food grains, that scarcity of food grains will come, and the scarcity of space and economic status of the country will be decreased. Economic status of country will be decreased, and due to increasing the population, pollution also will be increased. Due to increasing the population, poverty also will be increased. So these are the problems will be there due to increasing the population explosion. Due to population explosion, these are the problems will come. So to avoid these problems, we have to control birth. We have to control the birth rate. So to control the birth rate, what are the programs government is doing? So they are already provided small family norms, and they are providing incentives. Small family norms, and for the collecting to improving female ratio, to increasing the female ratio, and at the same time to control the birth, the Indian government has been proposing many schemes. So these schemes are first comes under small family norms. At the same time, another scheme is Hum Do Hamare Do. Hum Do Hamare Do. This is the one program and provided by Indian government. That is Hum Do Hamare Do, means we are 2 members, and for us we have 2 members. We are 2 members and we have 2 members. Means couples are 2 and they have 2 children. So totally 4 members in a family. So this also comes under small family norms. So Hum Do Hamare Do like programs the central government is doing in India. And at the same time, many in urban areas, many people in urban areas only, not in the villages. In the urban areas, the people voluntarily restricted their family with 1 child. In urban areas, many people, many working women and working couple, both are working, they have restricted their family with 1 child. This is voluntary. No government is imposing this rule on them. No government is imposing any conditions. No government is imposing any conditions, or no government is providing any pressure on them, but voluntarily those people are restricting their family with 1 child. So this is also a good sign for decreasing population rate in our country. So this is a birth control. Hum Do Hamare Do. Hum Do Hamare Do program is we are 2 and we have 2. So that is, so because of all these programs, the birth control is maybe possible in India. Next concept is very, very important concept, and very, very important, and important for both NEET exam and competitive exams as well as board exam. That is contraceptive methods. Contraceptive methods. Very, very important contraceptive methods. Contraceptive methods. Contraceptive methods. First one. What is contraceptive method? Voluntary. Contraceptive methods means voluntary, temporary, voluntary, temporary, controlling, or voluntary, temporary, avoiding pregnancy, avoiding pregnancy is called contraceptive method. Simply what we have to understand, what is avoiding pregnancy for some time. That is temporarily, and voluntarily. If it is natural occurs, that is called infertility. If it is naturally, if the couple is not naturally, if the couple is naturally not getting the children, means what we can say, that is infertile people. That is infertility. But voluntarily, even though they have the ability to produce the children, but voluntarily they are controlling that pregnancy. Voluntarily they are avoiding the pregnancy. So that is called what? Contraceptive method. Contraception means voluntary, temporary, avoiding pregnancy. Voluntary, temporary, avoiding pregnancy is called contraceptive method. Contraceptive method. In the contraceptive methods, there are totally 6 types are there. First one is natural methods. Natural methods. Second one is IUDs. And third one is barrier methods. Barrier methods. IUD full form is intrauterine devices. So barrier methods. And next one is implants. Implants. Next one is pills. And last one is surgical methods. Surgical methods. Contraception. Contraception. What is contraception? Voluntary, temporary, avoiding pregnancy. Voluntary, temporary, avoiding pregnancy is called contraception. The contraception natural methods. So these are the methods of contraception. There are 6 methods of contraception. 6 methods also. 6 out of 6 are important. 6 out of 6 are very, very important. Now let us see natural methods. Natural methods. The natural methods are 3. First one is periodic abstinence. So first one let us take withdrawal method. Withdrawal method. And second one is periodic abstinence. Periodic abstinence. And third one is lactational amenorrhea. Lactational amenorrhea. Lactational amenorrhea. Natural methods. Natural methods means these are the methods, no need to use any kind of chemicals, no need to use any type of medicines, and nothing externally required. Simply, these methods are to understand the physiology of human reproductive system, that's all. These methods are only based on understanding the physiology of human reproductive system. So based on this human physiology of reproductive system only, these methods are proposed. Based on these methods, we can avoid the pregnancy in naturally. So these are the methods are called natural methods. Natural methods. The first one is, natural method is withdrawal method. The withdrawal method is also known as coitus interruption method. Coitus interruption method. Coitus interruption method. Coitus means what? Mating. Coitus means mating. The sexual act of male and female. The sexual act of male and female is known as coitus. Or also known as, coitus is also known as mating. Coitus is also known as mating or copulation process. Many names are there. Coitus, mating, copulation. Okay. So this is during the time of copulation. Withdrawal method. Withdrawal method is a natural method. What is withdrawal method also called as? Withdrawal method also called coitus interruption method. Coitus interruption. Coitus means what? During the time of coitus, the male inserts the penis into the vagina, and finally, in the final stage of coitus, what happens? The sperm will be deposited inside the female reproductive tract. Inside the female reproductive tract, the sperm will be deposited. So this, after depositing that sperm into female reproductive tract, we can say that the coitus is completed. After deposition of the sperm into female reproductive tract, we can say that the coitus is completed. But here what happens? So during the withdrawal method, the male partner inserts his penis into the vagina, but before ejaculation of the sperm cells, before ejaculation of the sperm, he has to withdraw his penis from the reproductive tract. He has to withdraw his penis from reproductive tract just before ejaculation of sperm, just before releasing of the sperm. So that sperm will not be deposited inside the female reproductive tract. So that what will happen? There will be no chance of pregnancy. There will be no chance of pregnancy. So during the time of, see, this is withdrawal method. During the time of withdrawal method, the male partner has to the male partner has to remove his penis from the vagina before sperm is depositing into the reproductive tract, the female reproductive tract. Before releasing the semen, the male partner has to remove his penis from the vagina. This is called withdrawal method. Most probably, this method is greatly spoiling, because the method is not working in males, because in the population, in the people, because this method is not applying in the people, because so this method is, in the withdrawal method is most probably have less chances for avoiding the pregnancy. Coitus interruption method has less chances to avoid the pregnancy. Next, come to periodic abstinence. The second one is periodic abstinence. What is periodic abstinence? So during the periodic abstinence, first of all, let us see our reproductive system, female reproductive system and male reproductive system. During the copulation, the sperm will be deposited into the female reproductive tract, and inside the female reproductive tract, the sperm can survive up to 48 to 72 hours. Inside the female reproductive tract, the sperm can be, the sperm after deposition, the sperm can be survive up to 72 hours in the female reproductive tract. So that if the ovulation happens today, means previous 2 days also having the chance, in the previous 2 days, if the female participate in the sex, then there will be a chance of pregnancy. Are you understanding? Here one thing, let us see once again, the sperm can survive inside the female reproductive tract up to 3 days. For example, a female releases the egg, ovulation happens today, means the previous day and that previous day, means for this day, before 2 days of this day, have the pregnancy chances. And at the same time, today released, next 2 days also chances will be there, right or wrong? See, listen, today the egg is released in one female, we can say, before 2 days and after 2 days chances will be there, because the egg is produced within female reproductive tract, so that will survive up to 1 day. The egg produced in female reproductive tract can be survive up to 1 day. And sometimes, generally ovulation releases on 14th day. Generally, ovulation happens or ovule release on the 14th day of menstrual cycle. But in the rare cases, the ovulation maybe happens just plus or minus 2 days to 14th day. Means 2 days early also it may be happen sometimes, or 2 days later also it may happen sometimes. So based on this, what we can say, the first 5 days and later 5 days, or first 3 days, later 3 days after ovulation, we can say that it is the more accurate period for getting pregnancy. So that what we can say, let us see, 14th day ovum is released. 14th day ovum is released. So that this side 3 days and this side 3 days. During this time, chances of pregnancy are more. In the menstrual cycle, 14th day ovum is released. So sperm is released into the female reproductive system after copulation, if the coitus is happened. If the coitus is not happened, means all these calculations are not required. Once, if the female is participated in the sex, and if the sperm cell is deposited, then the sperm can survive up to 3 days within the female reproductive tract, and after that the sperm survives after releasing the egg will be survive up to 1 day. So based on these things, and one more thing is what? Sometimes the egg may be released plus or minus 2 days to normal date. Generally 14th day ovum will be released, but sometimes what will happen, 2 days early may be happen, 2 days later may be happen. So based on all these things, what we can say is 14th day is very, very important, because ovulation happens on the 14th day. Before 14th day 3 days and after 14th day 3 days. So in between this week, there is a lot of chances for pregnancy. There will be a lot of chances for pregnancy. So during this time, 14th day 3 days before and 3 days after. So the 10th days to 17 days of menstrual cycle. During 10 to 17 days of menstrual cycle, during 10 to 17 days of menstrual cycle, the chances of pregnancy are more, or the chances of pregnancy are very high. The chances of pregnancy are the chances of pregnancy are very high. So this leads to because of this, in this time, avoiding copulation or avoiding the sexual act or avoiding coitus is better to avoid the pregnancy. So we are discussing about the avoiding the pregnancy only, means contraception methods. So that in this time, if the couple wants pregnancy, they have to participate in the sex during these days, 10 to 17 days of menstrual cycle. If the couple don't want the children, if they want to follow contraception, and they should not participate in the sex in these days. So that is periodic abstinence. That is periodic abstinence. Then next one is lactational amenorrhea. Lactational amenorrhea. What is lactational amenorrhea? Lactational amenorrhea is once the female produces one baby. Once the female produces one baby, then up to 6 months, there will be no menstrual cycle takes place. So there will be no menstrual cycle occurs up to 6 weeks. 6 months. Up to 6 months, there will be no chance of getting menstrual cycle. So that within this time, what happens? Within this time, no egg is released. Within this time, no egg is released, so that no menstrual cycle happens, so that there will be no chance of pregnancy. So avoiding of menstrual cycle by natural avoiding of menstrual cycle. Naturally, menstrual cycle will be avoided in the initial days of lactation up to 6 months. In the 6 months of lactation period, means when the mother produces milk, up to when the mother is giving breastfeeding, then up to 6 months there will be no chance of menstrual cycle. During this time menstrual cycle does not occur, so that during this time there will be no chances of pregnancy. So these are natural methods. And let us go for the next method. The next method is IUDs. IUDs. The full form of IUDs is intrauterine devices. Intrauterine devices. Intrauterine devices. The intrauterine devices. First one is, intrauterine devices are the best contraceptive methods to females. These are the best contraceptive methods to females. The intrauterine devices are 3 types. First one is copper releasing IUDs. Second one is hormone releasing IUDs. Copper releasing IUDs, and second one is hormone releasing IUDs, and third one is non-medicated IUDs. Non-medicated IUDs. Next, barrier methods. The barrier methods mainly works on the principle avoiding the mating of or avoiding the fusion of sperm and egg. So this is the main purpose of barrier methods. Barrier methods avoid the fusion of sperm and egg. They will avoid the fertilization. So these are methods these barriers are made mostly condoms. The barriers are mostly condoms. So there are 2 types of condoms are there, male condoms and female condoms. The female condoms are also known as male condoms and female condoms. Female condoms are also known as vaginal pouches. The female condoms also known as vaginal pouches. So condoms. So these are barrier methods. So male condoms. So generally these condoms are made up of rubber. These condoms are made up of rubber and they do not interfere in sexual activity. They do not interfere in sexual activity, and but these condoms are made up of rubber, thin rubber and thin rubber thin rubber and tube-like structures, and they will be used by, they will be weared by the males. So during the time of sexual activity, in that will be used by male to his penis during the time of sexual activity. What is the importance of this condoms? In the, for example, if the male used the condom, so two people no need to use the condoms during the time of coitus. So anyone can use, either female or male can be used. If the male is used the condom, then the sperm will not be deposited into vaginal tract. If the male or female, whoever use the condom, the sperm will not be deposited into the vaginal tract. In this way, condoms are helping avoiding the sperm and egg fusion. Next, cervical vaults and diaphragms. Cervical vaults and diaphragms. So these are made up of rubber, and these are used to cover the cervix. These are used to cover the cervix, diaphragms and cervical vaults. They are made up of rubber, and they will avoid the entry of the sperm into, they are used to prevent the entry of the sperm into female reproductive tract. That is, these cervical vaults and diaphragm are made up of rubber, and these can be reusable. These materials can be reusable, and these are barrier methods. And the next one is spermicidal jellies. Spermicidal jellies also used to avoid this fusion of sperms and eggs, because they will kill the sperm, and these are the barrier methods. And here one question is there, that is, using of condom is two-way. It is dual benefits. There are two benefits by using. What are the two benefits by using of condoms? The first one is avoid the pregnancy. The first one, it avoids the pregnancy. The second one is it avoids the STDs. Condoms avoid STDs. Condoms avoid STDs. The first one is, by using of condoms, the first benefit is they will avoid the unwanted pregnancy. The second one is they avoid sexually transmitted diseases. The sexually transmitted disease also can be controlled by or avoided by using of condoms. So these are the dual role of condoms. They are the two benefits of using condoms. Next method is very, very important method, that is IUDs. IUD method is also known as intrauterine device. Intrauterine device method. IUDs, intrauterine devices. So these are widely accepted by females. These are widely accepted by females in India. Widely accepted by females in India. So that is IUDs, intrauterine devices. So these are the most suitable contraceptive methods. The most suitable contraceptive, or the best contraceptive methods. The best contraceptive methods to females. The best contraceptives for females. Next, IUDs are three types. IUDs. First one is copper releasing IUDs. Second one is non-medicated IUDs. And third one is hormone releasing IUDs. Hormone releasing IUDs. There are IUDs are three types. The first one is copper releasing IUD, the second one is non-medicated IUD, the third one is hormone releasing IUD. Copper releasing IUD example, copper T and copper 7 and multi-load 375. Multi-load 375. So these are multi-load 375. These are copper releasing IUDs. Copper releasing IUDs example are copper T and copper 7 and multi-load 375. These are the examples for copper releasing IUDs. Very, very important. IUDs examples are very, very important. So copper releasing IUDs, CUT, copper T and copper 7 and multi-load 375. Next, non-medicated IUD is Lippes loop. Copper T is present like this. Copper T is present like this. This is copper T is present like this, and this is uterus. Inside the uterus, copper T is present like this. This is made up of copper, and it releases copper ions into uterus. And IUDs are generally inserted by doctors or well-trained nurses. So IUDs cannot be used by the female by herself. So that IUDs are inserted by doctors or either well-trained nurses. So this is one example for copper T, and there is a small thread-like structure is there. With the helping of that, it will be removed later. Next, these are copper T. Next, Lippes loop, let us see. Here the Lippes loop is present like this. Copper T we have seen. Lippes loop is non-medicated loop. This is Lippes loop, you can see here. So this is Lippes loop. Lippes loop is present non-medicated IUD. Example, Lippes loop. Very, very important. One more question. Lippes loop. Non-medicated IUD, Lippes loop. And next one is hormone releasing IUDs. Hormone releasing IUDs are Progestastat and Progestastat and LNG 20. Progestastat and LNG 20. These are the two examples for hormone releasing IUDs. All IUDs help in phagocytosis of the sperm. Phagocytosis. All IUDs help in phagocytosis of the sperm. All IUDs increase phagocytosis. Phagocytosis means what? Breakdown of the sperm or spoiling of the sperm. So that destroying the sperm. So that is done by all the IUDs. The sperm cells will be destroyed by these IUDs. But especially copper releasing IUDs, along with this, they will do another one more work. That is, the copper releasing IUDs decreases the fertility capability, and another one more thing is locomotion activity. Means they will decrease the ability to move, movement ability to move. They will decrease the ability to move. The sperm cells cannot, they will reduce the movement of the sperm cells. They will reduce the movement of sperm cells, and at the same time, they reduce the fertilizing capacity of the sperm cells. They reduce the moving capability and fertilizing capability of the sperms. So that is copper releasing IUDs. The copper releasing IUDs reduce the fertilizing capability of the sperm. They will reduce, and they will reduce the movement of sperm cells are controlled. The movement of sperm cells is also reduced by copper releasing IUDs. Listen once again. All the IUDs help in phagocytosis of the sperm. All the IUDs help in phagocytosis of the sperm, especially copper releasing IUDs. They are for decreasing the sperm motility and fertilizing capability. They decrease sperm motility. Motility means what? The ability to move. They decrease motility and the fertilization capacity of the sperm. Next, hormone releasing IUDs. Hormone releasing IUDs, in addition to this means for phagocytosis. In addition to this, they will make the sperm, they will make uterus unsuitable for implantation. they'll make uterus unsuitable for implantation, and they will make cervix hostile to the sperm. Cervix hostile to the sperm. So this is, they'll make uterus unsuitable for implantation, and they'll make the cervix hostile. Hostile means what? Not suitable, or an unfavorable condition. So that is what we can say is hostile to the sperm. So these are totally IUDs. IUDs are generally the best contraceptive methods to females. IUDs are the best contraceptive methods to females. The full form of IUD is intrauterine devices. IUDs cannot utilized by a female herself. So that IUDs are inserted into female reproductive tract by doctors or well-trained nurses. There are 3 types of IUDs are there. The first one is copper releasing IUD. The second one is non-medicated IUD. The third one is hormone releasing IUD. The copper releasing IUD is example copper T, copper 7 multiload 375. Copper T, copper 7 multiload 375. And the second one is non-medicated IUD, example Lippes loop. This is Lippes loop. Next, hormone releasing IUDs, example Progestastat and LNG20. So these are totally 3 types of IUDs. And the functions of IUDs. IUDs make the uterus unsuitable for implantation, and at the same time, and cervix to hostile to the sperm. So this is the cervix hostile. Hostile means what? That cervix is unsuitable. Cervical mucus helps in capacitation of the sperm, we have studied already. Cervical mucus helps in increasing that fertilizing ability of the sperm. So that cervical mucus is hostile to the sperm means the sperm cannot fertilize. That is the function of IUDs. All the IUDs help in phagocytosis of the sperm. In addition to this, copper releasing IUDs decrease the motility and fertilizing capability of the sperm. So the ability to move, the sperm cells ability to movement is reduced by copper releasing IUDs, because copper releasing IUDs release copper, and this copper helps in decreasing the sperm motility. Motility means movement, ability to move. Motility means ability to move. Decreasing the sperm motility and fertilization capacity. And next one is non-medicated, and second one is hormone releasing IUDs. Hormone releasing IUDs makes uterus implantation unsuitable for implantation and cervix hostile to the sperm. And it make hormone releasing IUDs make the uterus unsuitable for implantation and make the cervix to hostile to the sperm. And who will use IUDs? The people, those who want the distance between the pregnancies, one pregnancy to another pregnancy, time distance, and the time distance is required to one pregnancy to another pregnancy, such type of females will use. And generally, some of the females who will give birth to twins also, sometimes they may use, because the twins are they have some less survival chances. If survival chances are less means at the time they will use IUDs. If the twins are normally born and normally they are surviving, then they will remove the IUDs and they will go for permanent family planning operations.